Every day your mind is hijacked by notifications, endless scrolling, and 100 open tabs fighting for your attention. What if I told you these hidden forces aren't random, but carefully designed to trap your focus, drain your energy, and shape your choices without you even realizing it? The question is, are you controlling your mind, or is your mind controlling you? Imagine a day in your life. From the moment you wake up, your phone buzzes with notifications before you've even left the bed. You scroll through a dozen emails, check social media, and without realizing it, your mind has already started processing an overwhelming amount of information. From the sound of a notification to the endless flood of news stories, your brain is working overtime, trying to keep up with the constant barrage of distractions. And yet, despite all this connectivity, many of us feel more disconnected than ever. The question is, what is happening to our minds in this hyper-connected, always-on world? This is the reality of the modern human mind, a mind that is constantly navigating an environment full of distractions, pressures, and instant gratification. We're living in a time where our brains are under more stress than ever before. With technology accelerating the pace of life, it's no wonder so many people feel overwhelmed, distracted, and unable to focus. The irony is that while we've made tremendous advancements in technology, our brains haven't evolved at the same pace. This gap between our evolutionary wiring and the modern world is creating an increasing struggle for mental balance. The mind was never designed for the type of overstimulation we encounter daily. Our brains evolved in environments where survival was a top priority, and focus was limited to immediate, essential needs. Today, however, we are bombarded with more information than we could possibly process in a lifetime. This constant overstimulation has significant consequences on how we think, feel, and behave. Our attention spans have shortened, our stress levels have skyrocketed, and our ability to focus on meaningful, long-term goals has diminished. We are in a state of perpetual distraction, and it's taking a toll on our mental health. In this book, we will explore the hidden forces that govern human psychology in the 21st century. We'll look at how modern distractions, whether it's the endless notifications on your phone, the pressure to always be on, or the lure of instant gratification, shape our daily behaviors and decisions. These influences are not just inconveniences. They are powerful forces that are rewriting how we think, how we make decisions, and how we experience the world around us. Understanding the psychology behind these behaviors is the first step toward regaining control. When we are aware of the patterns that drive us, we can start to make more conscious decisions. We can learn to interrupt the automatic responses that lead us into unhealthy habits and instead make choices that serve us in the long run. For example, you may find that you check your phone out of habit rather than necessity, or that you overeat at night as a way to cope with stress. These patterns may feel like automatic, unchangeable parts of your life, but in reality, they are a product of mind struggling to adapt to an environment it was never meant to navigate. The good news is that once we begin to recognize these patterns, we can change them. Our brains are not static. They are plastic, capable of change and growth. But this doesn't happen automatically. It takes conscious effort, self-awareness, and a commitment to reshaping our mental habits. By understanding the forces that influence our daily actions, we can begin to work with our brains, rather than against them. Let's take a closer look at how these patterns manifest in everyday life. Have you ever found yourself mindlessly scrolling through social media, only to realize hours later that you've accomplished nothing? Or maybe you've been caught in a cycle of overthinking, replaying the same thought over and over again until it begins to consume you. These are just a few examples of how modern stimuli affect our thought processes, but they are not isolated incidents. They represent a larger, more complex challenge we face as humans today, a mind that is constantly under pressure to keep up. The first step in addressing this challenge is understanding the source of these pressures. Technology, for all its benefits, has created a culture of constant connectivity. While this may seem like a convenience, it's also a form of mental overload. Our phones, social media, emails, and even the news all demand our attention, often in ways that undermine our ability to focus on what truly matters. This has a profound impact on our mental health. Anxiety, stress, and depression are all linked to overexposure to information, especially when we feel overwhelmed by the sheer volume of stimuli. However, The solution is not to abandon technology altogether. Technology itself isn't the problem. It's our relationship with it that needs to be examined. It's not about going offline or cutting yourself off from the world. It's about creating healthy boundaries and reclaiming control over where your attention goes. This requires developing a deeper understanding of your own psychology, how your brain responds to stress, how your attention is pulled in different directions, and how you can design your environment to support healthier habits. This book is about learning to navigate the modern world more consciously. We'll explore the different psychological forces that shape our behaviors, many of which we are unaware of, and how we can begin to align our actions with our true values and long-term goals. We'll look at how to reduce the negative impact of distractions, manage stress, and regain the focus and mental clarity that is so often lost in today's chaotic world. The human brain is a remarkable organ, capable of tremendous growth and adaptation. However, it can also be easily swayed by modern distractions. By understanding the psychology behind our daily behaviors, we can learn to manage our mental health and make better decisions. This audiobook will guide you in identifying the hidden forces at play in your own life and show you how to regain control over your thoughts, actions, and habits. As we dive deeper into these concepts, remember this: the challenges we face in today's world are not a result of personal weakness or failure. They are a natural consequence of living in an era of unprecedented stimulation. The good news is that by understanding the psychology behind our responses, we can begin to reshape our habits and take back control of our mental health. This audiobook by Audiobook Center will shed light on how you can better navigate the forces at play in your own mind. Through practical strategies and a deeper understanding of human psychology, you will be equipped to not only survive in this modern world, but to thrive in it. Chapter 1. The Phantom Phone Check. Have you ever been sitting in a quiet room, absorbed in your thoughts or deep in a conversation, when suddenly you feel a buzz or vibration in your pocket? You instinctively reach for your phone, only to find that it hasn't vibrated at all. Yet, that sensation of your phone buzzing is real, and it happens far more often than we realize. This phenomenon, known as phantom vibration syndrome, is just one small example of how deeply our minds have been shaped by the constant presence of digital devices in our lives. But it's not just a quirky occurrence. It's a glimpse into something far more powerful: the psychological forces driving our compulsive need to check our phones and stay connected, even when it doesn't serve us. In today's digital age, our smartphones have become an extension of ourselves. We carry them everywhere, checking them reflexively, even when there's no immediate need. Whether we're in a meeting, at dinner, or just walking down the street, the urge to check our phones can strike at any moment. This seemingly innocent habit is fueled by a complex web of psychological factors, and at the heart of it lies the brain's response to instant gratification. Every time we receive a notification, whether it's a new email, a like on a social media post, or a message from a friend, we experience a small dopamine hit. It's a chemical reward that our brains crave, and over time, we become addicted to the cycle. The idea of instant gratification is not new. It's been around for as long as humans have needed to fulfill their basic needs quickly, but technology has amplified it in ways that our brains were never designed to handle. The brain has evolved to seek out quick rewards, but modern technology has created an environment where these rewards come at us relentlessly. Every time we check our phones, our brains are expecting something new, whether it's information, a social connection, or a moment of entertainment. The anticipation alone triggers a release of dopamine, creating a feedback loop that drives us to keep checking, even when we know it may not be productive or beneficial. This cycle of dopamine-driven behavior can easily spiral into addiction. You might think you're just checking your phone for a quick update, but before you know it, 15 minutes have passed, and you've lost focus on whatever task you were trying to accomplish. The consequence of this addiction to connectivity isn't just about lost time. It's about how our attention and mental energy are constantly fragmented. We've all been in situations where we can't remember what we were doing or what we were thinking before we picked up our phone. That's because our brains are trained to prioritize immediate rewards over long-term focus and productivity. The impact of phone checking on productivity is profound. Studies have shown that multitasking, the act of switching between tasks rapidly, actually reduces our efficiency. When you check your phone, and then try to refocus on your work, your brain needs time to regain the mental state it was in before the interruption. This attention residue causes cognitive delays, which can make even simple tasks feel like they take much longer than they should. Over time, this constant interruption to your thought processes can lead to a decrease in productivity and mental clarity, leaving you feeling scattered and unfocused. More troubling is the long-term psychological effect of phone addiction. As the brain becomes increasingly reliant on quick dopamine hits, it can become harder to experience satisfaction from activities that don't provide an immediate reward. We might start to feel restless, bored, or anxious when we're not engaging with our devices. This constant need for validation, whether to like on a photo or a response to a text, can leave us feeling disconnected and unfulfilled, even when we're surrounded by people. It's no surprise, then, that many people report feeling more isolated and disconnected from others despite being constantly connected to their devices. This paradox is one of the most insidious consequences of phone addiction. So, how do we break free from this cycle? The first step is recognizing the psychological forces at play. Understanding that our phones are designed to grab our attention is crucial. Apps and notifications are not just neutral tools. They are engineered to trigger our brain's reward system. But awareness is only the beginning. In order to take back control, we need to make intentional decisions about how we use our phones. One of the most effective strategies is to set boundaries around phone use. This doesn't mean you need to abandon your device altogether, but it does mean being conscious of when and how you interact with it. For example, try turning off non-essential notifications. If you don't need an immediate update on the weather, or if you don't need to know when a new social media post is made, turn those notifications off. This simple change will reduce the constant pull to check your phone. You can also designate phone-free times during the day, whether that's during meals, while working, or before bed. The goal is to create space for deeper focus and connection, free from the constant buzz of your phone. Another strategy is to use the out-of-sight, out-of-mind technique. Research has shown that the mere presence of a phone can distract us, even when it's not in use. If you need to focus on a task, try putting your phone in another room or out of arm's reach. You'll be surprised at how much easier it is to concentrate without the temptation of a nearby device. This physical separation helps create mental separation, allowing you to direct your attention where it's needed most. If you're someone who feels anxious about missing out or being disconnected, there are tools and apps that can help you stay accountable. Some apps are designed to help you limit your screen time, track your usage, and even block distracting apps during certain periods of the day. This can help retrain your brain to focus on what truly matters, rather than chasing the next notification. The most important thing to remember is that breaking free from the cycle of compulsively checking your phone isn't about willpower alone. It's about understanding the psychology behind the behavior and making strategic changes to your environment. The more you can reduce the distractions in your life, the more space you'll create for meaningful work, deep thinking, and genuine connection. And as you gradually regain control over your attention, you'll start to see improvements not just in your productivity, but in your overall mental well-being. The journey to reclaiming your focus and breaking free from phone addiction is not an overnight process. But with a little awareness, a few strategic changes, and a commitment to creating healthier habits, you can reduce the hold that technology has on your life. By understanding the hidden psychological forces at play, you can begin to make decisions that serve your long-term happiness and well-being. It's time to take back your mind, one mindful decision at a time. Chapter 2, The 5-Minute Lie. We've all been there. You know there's something you should be doing, a task that's important, perhaps even urgent. But instead of diving in, you tell yourself, I'll just do it in 5 minutes. You glance at your phone, check social media, or start scrolling through YouTube. 5 minutes pass and you tell yourself, okay, just 5 more minutes. And before you know it, hours have slipped away and the task is still untouched. This is the 5-minute rule trap, and it's one of the most common psychological tricks we play on ourselves. At its core, procrastination is a lie we tell ourselves to avoid discomfort. The 5-minute rule is one of the most convincing forms of this lie. We convince ourselves that we're not really procrastinating, just postponing for a brief moment. We tell ourselves that 5 minutes won't make a difference, But what we don't realize is that those 5 minutes at the beginning of an hour, a day, or even longer spent avoiding the task entirely. It's a subtle but powerful mechanism of avoidance, and it works on a deep psychological level. Procrastination, in its simplest form, is our mind's way of avoiding the discomfort associated with starting or completing a task. It often occurs when we anticipate that the task will be difficult, boring, or emotionally taxing. Our brains, wired for short-term pleasure and instant gratification, naturally gravitate toward more pleasurable activities, like checking our phones or watching TV. The problem with this is that the short-term relief we get from avoiding the task often leads to long-term regret, stress, and anxiety. We know, deep down, that we should be doing something productive, but we keep putting off, hoping that some magical moment will arrive when we feel ready to start. What happens in these moments is a complex mix of psychological processes. When we avoid a task, we are also avoiding the discomfort it may bring. Our brains are wired to avoid pain, whether that pain is physical, emotional, or mental. However, by avoiding tasks, we don't escape discomfort. We only delay it. The discomfort doesn't disappear. It piles up. The longer we put off a task, the more overwhelming it becomes. Eventually, what seemed like a simple task can feel insurmountable, leading to a feeling of helplessness or frustration. And so, we procrastinate more. This pattern of avoidance is reinforced by something called cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort that arises when our actions don't align with our values or beliefs. On one hand, we know that we should be doing something, but on the other hand, we're avoiding it. This creates internal conflict, and the mind's natural response is to justify the avoidance. We tell ourselves things like, I work better under pressure, or I'll be more focused later, which are forms of self-deception. In the moment, these excuses seem rational, but in the long run, they only serve to perpetuate the cycle of procrastination. The illusion of control over time plays a significant role in this cycle. Our minds often trick us into thinking that we have more time than we actually do. We convince ourselves that there's always a later, another chance to start, another opportunity to act. This illusion of control is comforting, but it's ultimately false. The reality is that time is finite. Once it passes, it's gone forever. But by telling ourselves that we can always push things off for another 5 minutes, we ignore the fact that time is slipping away, and we have less control over it than we think. In order to break free from this cycle, we first need to recognize when we're falling into the trap. The next time you catch yourself saying, just 5 more minutes, take a moment to reflect on what's really happening. Are you avoiding the task because it feels too difficult? Are you trying to escape the discomfort of starting something new or finishing something you've been putting off? Acknowledging the lie is the first step in overcoming it. One of the most effective ways to combat procrastination is to reframe the way we approach tasks. Instead of focusing on how much we don't want to do something, focus on the benefits of completing it. Ask yourself, how will I feel once I finish this? Or what opportunities will open up once this task is out of the way? Shifting your focus from the immediate discomfort to the long-term rewards can help motivate you to get started. Another strategy is to break tasks into smaller, more manageable pieces. When a task feels overwhelming, it's easy to push it off because the thought of completing it all at once is daunting. But by breaking it down into smaller steps, you can make the task feel less intimidating. Start with just one small action, whether that's writing the first sentence, making one phone call, or opening the document. Once you've taken that first step, momentum often builds, and the task becomes easier to continue. Time blocking is another powerful technique for managing procrastination. Set aside specific, uninterrupted blocks of time for focused work. During this time, remove all distractions. Turn off your phone, close unnecessary tabs, and commit to focusing solely on the task at hand. The structure of time blocking helps you create a sense of urgency and reduces the temptation to check your phone or indulge in distractions. By treating the time you've set aside for a task as sacred, you can reduce the chances of falling into the 5-minute rule trap. Building accountability into your routine can also help break the procrastination cycle. This could mean telling a friend or a colleague what you plan to accomplish and asking them to check in with you. Knowing that someone else is expecting results can provide the extra motivation to overcome avoidance. Alternatively, You can use apps or tools that track your time and progress, helping you stay on task and recognize when you're slipping into procrastination. Ultimately, the key to overcoming procrastination lies in breaking the lie of just 5 more minutes and taking small, deliberate actions. Remember that procrastination is a habit, and like any habit, it can be changed with consistent effort. Recognizing the psychological tricks our mind plays on us is the first step. From there, it's about creating systems that reduce distractions, make tasks more manageable, and keep you focused on the bigger picture. The next time you feel a familiar pull to delay a task, remind yourself that the illusion of control is fleeting, and that every moment spent avoiding the task is a moment you'll never get back. Take control of your time, break the cycle of procrastination, and step into a future where you are the one driving your productivity, not your mind's tricks. By making small, conscious changes, you can start to shift the way you think about time and your relationship with it. Chapter 3. Inbox Roulette. It starts with the ping. A new email notification on your phone or computer. You glance at the screen. Maybe it's a work-related update, a personal message, or an important notification. You quickly open your inbox, expecting 1 or 2 new messages, but instead, you're met with a flood. Dozens, sometimes hundreds, of unread emails. The initial excitement fades, replaced by a sense of overwhelm, a rising tide of anxiety that makes you question how you're ever going to get through it all. This is Inbox Roulette, the game we play every day, hoping for the best, but often feeling more stressed and unfocused than ever before. In today's hyper-connected world, the constant barrage of emails and messages has become a major source of cognitive overload. Every notification is a call to action, demanding our attention and our energy. The problem is that this perpetual state of readiness, constantly scanning and responding, takes a psychological toll. It's not just a volume of information that's overwhelming. It's the way it chips away at our mental capacity. Our brains weren't designed to handle this level of constant input, and yet we've created a society where constant communication is a norm. We've all experienced the anxiety of a full inbox. The more unread emails we see, the more pressure we feel to manage them. The problem, though, isn't just the number of emails. It's the way our brains respond to them. Each new email presents a small decision. Should I read it now? Should I respond? Do I need to take immediate action? This seemingly endless cycle of decisions creates mental clutter, distracting us from the tasks that require our full attention. It's called cognitive load, the amount of mental effort required to process information. Every time we check our inbox, we add to that load, reducing our ability to focus on anything else. And before long, we feel mentally drained and overwhelmed. A major psychological force driving this behavior is a fear of missing out or FOMO. It's not just about checking your inbox for the sake of productivity. It's about the fear that something important might be happening while you're not paying attention. You might miss a crucial email from your boss, a text from a friend, or an opportunity for personal or professional growth. This constant desire to stay updated creates a compulsion to check our inboxes multiple times a day, often leading to inefficient work habits and increased stress levels. We become addicted to the need for constant updates, like a gambler checking the Wheel of Fortune, hoping for the next winning notification. This compulsive behavior is further fueled by decision fatigue. The more decisions we have to make throughout the day, the harder it becomes to make quality choices. And when it comes to our inbox, each email requires a small decision. Read, delete, respond, or ignore. As the inbox fills up, so does our mental clutter. The pressure to make quick decisions, especially when the task feels urgent or important, can lead to poor decision-making. We respond impulsively, sometimes too quickly, and often end up making mistakes or overlooking more important tasks in the process. And then there's the expectation of instant response. In our connected world, the assumption is that we should reply to emails and messages almost immediately, especially when they're from colleagues or clients. The psychological pressure to respond quickly can be overwhelming. We feel guilty for not replying right away or worry that our delay will be seen as unprofessional or inconsiderate. This pressure affects not only our productivity, but also our emotional well-being. The constant need to be available, to be on at all times, leads to burnout and decreases our ability to make thoughtful, well-considered decisions. So, How do we manage this? How do we break the cycle of inbox anxiety and regain control over our time and mental energy? The first step is recognizing the psychological forces at play, understanding that we are being driven by FOMO, decision fatigue, and the pressure to respond immediately can help us take a step back and make more mindful decisions about how we engage with our inbox. One of the most effective ways to manage inbox overwhelm is to set clear boundaries around email usage. For example, designate specific times during the day to check and respond to emails. This could be first thing in the morning after lunch and just before finishing work for the day. By limiting email checks to these set periods, you reduce the constant ping that keeps your brain in a state of readiness. You also create space for focused work, allowing your mind to engage with more important tasks without the constant distraction of email notifications. Another key strategy is organizing your inbox in a way that reduces cognitive load. This can mean setting up filters, labels, or folders to categorize emails. By sorting your emails into actionable categories, urgent, follow-up, read later, you can quickly scan your inbox and decide what requires your attention right away and what can wait. This organization helps clear mental clutter and allows you to focus on what's most important without feeling overwhelmed by the sheer volume of messages. Using tools like email templates or canned responses can also reduce the mental load of composing emails. If you find yourself sending the same type of email repeatedly, create a few templates to streamline the process. This will save you time and mental energy, allowing you to focus on more meaningful interactions. Additionally, consider setting up an auto-reply for periods when you're focused on deep work or away from your desk, informing others of your availability and response times. Limiting email notifications is another crucial tactic. Constant notifications create a sense of urgency that often isn't warranted. Turn off non-essential notifications, especially for emails that don't require immediate attention. If possible, mute email threads that you don't need to be constantly updated on. This reduces a constant pull to check your inbox and allows you to focus on your work without distractions. Finally, it's important to manage your expectations around response time. We live in a world where the expectation for instant replies can be overwhelming, but it's essential to create boundaries around when and how you respond to emails. Not everything requires an immediate reply, and setting this expectation with others can reduce the pressure you feel to stay connected all the time. Let colleagues and clients know when you are available to respond and stick to those boundaries. By implementing these strategies, you can take control of your inbox and reduce the mental toll it takes on your productivity and well-being. The key is to recognize the psychological forces driving your behavior and make intentional choices about how to engage with your email. Inbox anxiety doesn't have to rule your day. With a little organization, a few boundaries, and a focus on mindfulness, you can transform your relationship with email and create space for more meaningful, productive work. In the end, the goal isn't to eliminate email from your life. It's to regain control over it. By setting boundaries and managing expectations, you can turn inbox roulette into a game you win every time. And in doing so, you'll free up mental energy to focus on what really matters, leading to less stress, better decision-making, and more meaningful productivity. Chapter 4, Tab Overload, Brain Overheat. You're sitting at your desk, working on an important project, when suddenly you hear the familiar sound of an incoming email. You open your inbox, read the message, and respond quickly. But before you can get back to your original task, you check your phone for a new notification, and while you're there, you scroll through a social media feed for just a few minutes. Then, a message from a colleague pops up on your screen, pulling your attention in yet another direction. Before you know it, you've got 5 tabs open, multiple tasks demanding your attention, and your brain feels like it's about to short circuit. This is what we call tab overload, and it's a prime example of how multitasking can cause our brains to overheat. In today's fast-paced world, multitasking has become the norm. We juggle between email, social media, phone calls, and work tasks, all while trying to stay productive. It seems like we're getting a lot done, but the reality is that multitasking is a myth, an illusion of productivity that often does more harm than good. Instead of speeding up our work or boosting efficiency, it actually reduces our ability to focus, increases stress, and leads to mental fatigue. Multitasking, in its essence, is the attempt to divide our attention across multiple tasks. But research has shown that our brains simply aren't designed to do this effectively. When we think we're multitasking, what's actually happening is rapid task switching. The brain can only focus on one thing at a time, so it quickly shifts between tasks, which can create a false sense of productivity. It feels like you're handling many things at once, but in reality, you're only skimming the surface of each task, often leaving important details or quality work behind. This phenomenon is supported by something called cognitive load theory. Cognitive load refers to the amount of mental effort required to process information. When we attempt to multitask, we increase the cognitive load on our brains. Instead of focusing on one task at a time, our brains are forced to process multiple pieces of information at once, which can quickly become overwhelming. This overload isn't just uncomfortable, it's damaging. The more tasks we try to juggle, the less mental energy we have for each individual task. And over time, this mental fatigue can lead to stress, burnout, and decreased productivity. When we switch between tasks, we don't just lose a few seconds in the process. There's a psychological cost to task switching, known as the switching cost. Every time you move from one task to another, your brain has to stop focusing on the current task and adjust to the new one. This process takes time, and during the switch, your performance on both tasks suffers. In fact, research has shown that it can take up to 25 minutes for your brain to fully refocus after switching tasks. This means that when you're juggling multiple tasks or constantly switching between different sources of information, you're essentially operating at a fraction of your full cognitive capacity. The impact of multitasking isn't just about productivity. It also affects our ability to think deeply, solve problems, and be creative. Deep thinking requires sustained focus, something that's hard to achieve when we're constantly switching between tasks. When we jump from one thing to another, we don't allow ourselves the space to fully immerse in a problem or think through solutions. The result is shallow thinking, poor problem solving, and a lack of creative insight. Think about a time when you were working on a complex problem and felt that sudden flash of insight or aha moment. That moment of clarity likely happened when you were fully immersed in the task, without distractions. But when we're multitasking, those moments become rarer, because our brains are never able to fully engage with the task at hand. We may feel busy, but we're not necessarily being productive in the meaningful sense of the word. So, what can we do to break free from the grip of multitasking and start working more efficiently? The first step is to recognize the problem. Understanding that multitasking isn't helping you be more productive is crucial. Once you acknowledge that task switching comes at a psychological cost, you can begin to take steps to reduce the mental load on your brain. One strategy is to block time for focused work. Instead of checking your emails every few minutes or jumping between tasks, designate specific blocks of time where you focus solely on one task. For example, you could set aside 30 minutes in the morning to write a report without checking your phone or email. During this time, commit to deep work. This means eliminating distractions, turning off notifications, closing unnecessary tabs, and focusing entirely on the task at hand. By limiting the number of things vying for your attention, you can reduce cognitive load and improve the quality of your work. Another powerful technique is the Pomodoro technique, which involves working in short, focused intervals, typically 25 minutes, followed by a 5-minute break. After 4 intervals, you take a longer break. This method is effective because it encourages sustained focus without the overwhelming pressure to multitask. It also helps you pace yourself, preventing burnout and maintaining productivity throughout the day. Limiting the number of tabs or tasks you have open at any given time is another practical way to manage cognitive load. Try to work with a single task or project at a time. If you're using a computer, close tabs that aren't related to the current task. This minimizes distractions and helps your brain stay focused on the task you're working on. If you need to switch tasks, close the tab related to the previous task first, rather than leaving everything open and jumping back and forth. Mindfulness practices can also play a significant role in improving focus. By training your mind to be more aware of when you're slipping into multitasking or becoming distracted, you can intervene and refocus your attention. Simple mindfulness exercises, such as deep breathing or taking a moment to pause and refocus, can help reset your brain and prevent overload. Finally, allow yourself to take breaks between tasks. When you're immersed in work, it's easy to forget that your brain needs rest. Breaks are essential for maintaining mental clarity and performance. Step away from your desk, take a walk, or simply close your eyes for a few minutes. This helps clear mental clutter and prepares you for your next task with renewed focus and energy. By implementing these strategies, you can start to shift from a state of constant task switching and cognitive overload to one of focused, purposeful work. The goal isn't to eliminate multitasking altogether. It's to recognize when it's hindering your productivity and to make mindful choices about how you engage with your work. When you stop the cycle of constant switching, you'll not only improve your productivity, but also unlock your ability to think more creatively, solve problems more effectively, and perform at your highest cognitive level. In the end, it's not about doing more. It's about doing what matters with greater focus. By reducing multitasking, you'll reclaim the mental energy you need to produce your best work. Think deeply and find creative solutions. In a world full of distractions, mastering focus is one of the most powerful tools you can develop. So, the next time you feel the urge to juggle tasks, pause and remember, your brain works best when it's allowed to focus on one thing at a time. Chapter 5. Midnight Overthinking. It's late. The house is quiet. The world outside is still, and you're lying in bed, wide awake. Your mind, however, is anything but still. Thoughts begin to swirl about work, relationships, finances, future plans, until it feels like your brain is a constant reel of worries and uncertainties. What started as a single thought quickly spirals into an overwhelming flood of scenarios, problems, and what-ifs. You try to push them away, but the harder you try, the more intense they become. This is midnight overthinking, a phenomenon that many of us experience when the distractions of the day fade away, and our minds are left to wander. It's the moment when our inner thoughts become magnified, and the quiet of the night amplifies our anxieties. The tendency to overthink is deeply rooted in human psychology. At its core, overthinking is driven by the brain's need to resolve uncertainties. When we're faced with an unresolved issue, whether it's something that happened earlier in the day or something looming in the future, our brains become fixated on finding answers. The issue is that the more we focus on these problems, the less likely we are to find solutions. In fact, overthinking often leads to paralysis rather than clarity. We find ourselves stuck in a mental loop, replaying the same thoughts over and over, trying to solve problems that can't be solved in the middle of the night. One of the primary drivers of midnight overthinking is anxiety. As night falls, we transition from the busyness of the day to a quieter, more reflective space. This shift can bring unresolved emotions or worries to the forefront. When anxiety takes hold, our brains tend to fixate on the worst-case scenarios, focusing on things we cannot control or predict. As our thoughts race, we convince ourselves that by thinking more about the problem, we might find a solution. But the reality is that this kind of rumination does nothing but amplify the anxiety, creating a vicious cycle that becomes harder to break as the night progresses. This cycle of anxiety is particularly insidious because it disrupts our sleep. Research has shown that anxiety and overthinking are strongly correlated with poor sleep quality. When we're overthinking, our bodies remain in a heightened state of alertness, which triggers a release of stress hormones like cortisol. These hormones make it difficult for our bodies to relax, preventing us from falling asleep or staying asleep throughout the night. The more we overthink, the more restless we become. And the more restless we become, the more likely we are to continue overthinking. This creates a feedback loop that leaves us both mentally exhausted and physically drained, making it even harder to tackle the issues that are bothering us in the morning. But why does our mind trick us into thinking that we can solve problems at night? The answer lies in the brain's natural tendency to want closure. When we encounter a problem, our brains seek resolution. However, late at night, we're often too tired to think critically or rationally, and yet we believe that by continuing to think about something, we will eventually arrive at a solution. This is a cognitive illusion, the idea that if we just think a little longer, we'll figure things out. In reality, overthinking is not solving the problem. Instead, it's draining our mental resources, making it harder to think clearly when we need to. So, what can we do to break free from the cycle of midnight overthinking? One of the most effective tools is cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, a well-established therapeutic approach that helps individuals identify and challenge the thought patterns that lead to anxiety and overthinking. In the context of overthinking, CBT can help us recognize when we're engaging in rumination and encourage us to reframe our thoughts in a more balanced way. One technique within CBT is called thought stopping. When you catch yourself in a cycle of overthinking, you can mentally tell yourself to stop and then redirect your focus to something more grounding. This could be something as simple as focusing on your breathing or imagining a peaceful scene. Another CBT technique that can be helpful is cognitive reframing. When you're lying in bed, thinking about all the things that are causing you anxiety, try to challenge the validity of those thoughts. Ask yourself questions like, is there any evidence that supports this worry? Or, what would I tell a friend who had this thought? This helps create distance between you and the problem, allowing you to see it from a different perspective and reduce the intensity of your anxiety. Mindfulness and relaxation techniques can also play a significant role in managing midnight overthinking. Mindfulness involves focusing your attention on the present moment without judgment. By practicing mindfulness before bed, you can create a sense of calm that prepares your body and mind for sleep. Simple practices like deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, or guided meditation can help ease the tension in your body and quiet your mind. For example, a deep breathing exercise involves inhaling for a count of 4, holding for 4, and exhaling for 4. This pattern of breathing helps activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for calming the body and preparing it for rest. Creating a calming pre-sleep routine is another powerful tool. The hour or so before you go to bed is critical in preparing your mind for sleep. Avoiding stimulating activities, such as checking emails or scrolling through social media, can help prevent your brain from becoming overly alert. Instead, engage in relaxing activities like reading a book, listening to calming music, or taking a warm bath. By creating a routine that signals to your brain that it's time to wind down, you increase the chances of falling asleep more easily and staying asleep longer. In addition to these strategies, it's also helpful to establish a healthy sleep environment. Keep your bedroom cool, dark, and quiet, and try to stick to a regular sleep schedule. The more consistent your sleep routine, the easier it will be for your brain to associate bedtime with relaxation and rest rather than overthinking. Ultimately, breaking the cycle of midnight overthinking requires a combination of strategies. By recognizing the patterns of rumination, using techniques like CBT and mindfulness, and creating a calming environment, you can reduce the anxiety that keeps you awake at night. Over time, as you implement these strategies, your brain will learn to disengage in the cycle of overthinking, allowing you to experience more restful, restorative sleep. Remember, the problems you think you can solve at night are often best addressed during the day when your mind is fresh and your thinking is clearer. So, the next time you find yourself caught in the grip of midnight overthinking, remind yourself that rest is the most powerful tool for solving the challenges you face. Your brain and body need that time to reset, and when you wake up, you'll be in a much better position to tackle the issues that once seemed so overwhelming. Chapter 6. The Comparison Scroll. You open your phone, scroll through Instagram, and stop. There it is. Another friend's vacation photos from a tropical island. A co-worker's promotion announcement, a celebrity flaunting their latest achievement. For a moment, you feel a slight pang in your chest. A thought creeps in, why don't I have that? That fleeting feeling of envy becomes a quiet whisper in your mind, comparing your life to theirs. Before you know it, you spend the last 15 minutes scrolling through other successes, and suddenly, your own life feels less impressive, less fulfilling. This is a comparison scroll, a modern-day phenomenon fueled by social media, where the simple act of scrolling through someone else's highlights can quickly diminish our own sense of self-worth. At its core, the psychology behind this behavior can be traced to something called social comparison theory. This theory, first proposed by psychologist Leon Festinger in 1954, suggests that humans have an innate tendency to evaluate themselves in relation to others. It's hardwired into us. In the past, this might have meant comparing ourselves to our neighbors, co-workers, or friends. But now, In the age of social media, the comparison has been magnified 1,000-fold. We're no longer just comparing ourselves to the people we know. We're comparing ourselves to thousands, sometimes millions, of people we'll never meet. And the stakes feel higher because, with social media, we often see only the polished, curated versions of other people's lives, which leaves us wondering why our own lives don't look as picture perfect. This comparison, fueled by constant exposure to other successes, can have a profound impact on our self-worth and confidence. We begin to measure our own achievement and happiness against a standard that is often unrealistic, unattainable, or misleading. The images and posts we see on Instagram or Facebook are carefully selected representations of success, beauty, and happiness, but they rarely reflect the full, messy reality of life. Behind every perfect photo is a complex, imperfect life, and yet we can't help but see those images and think, I should have that too. The problem is that when we constantly compare ourselves to others, we fall into a trap of self-judgment. Instead of recognizing our own unique strengths and accomplishments, we focus on what we lack, amplifying feelings of inadequacy. This leads to a decrease in self-esteem, a lack of motivation, and even anxiety. The more we scroll, the more we see evidence of our own perceived shortcomings. We wonder if we're falling behind, if we're not good enough, or if we're missing out on life's best experiences. This is the dark side of social media, the feeling that we're not measuring up to the idealized lives we see online. Social media, however, isn't all bad. It can be empowering. It allows us to connect with people from all walks of life, share experiences, and even find inspiration. But when we become trapped in a cycle of comparison, it turns toxic. Platforms like Instagram and Facebook thrive on our need for validation. Likes, comments, shares. These numbers are more than just metrics. They're a form of social validation. When we post something and receive positive feedback, it feels good. It boosts our self-esteem and reinforces our sense of belonging. But when we don't get the response we expect, we feel rejected, unworthy, or invisible. This constant need for validation from external sources creates a dependency on how others perceive us. Our self-worth becomes tied to the approval of people we may not even know, and this can lead to feelings of emptiness or insecurity. The issue with social media isn't just a comparison. It's also the illusion of perfection. The platforms are designed to highlight the best of the best, the most beautiful, the most successful, the happiest moments. But the truth is, this curated perfection is rarely a true reflection of real life. Behind every perfect image, there's a complex reality. Struggles, failures, frustrations, and doubts. When we compare our raw, unfiltered selves to the polished versions of others, we set ourselves up for disappointment. It's like playing a game with rules we don't fully understand, where the odds are stacked against us. No one's life is as perfect as it appears on social media, but it's easy to forget that when we're constantly exposed to the highlight reels. So how do we escape the trap of the comparison scroll and reclaim our sense of self-worth? The first step is to shift the narrative. Instead of letting comparison lead to envy, we can turn it into motivation. The next time you find yourself comparing your life to someone else's, try to reframe your thoughts. Rather than thinking, why don't I have that? Try thinking, what can I learn from this? Use the success of others as inspiration, not as a measure of your own failure. If a friend has achieved something you admire, ask yourself what steps they took to get there and how you might apply those same principles to your own life. This shift in perspective can help you view other successes as opportunities for growth, rather than as evidence of your shortcomings. Building self-worth is also a critical part of breaking free from the cycle of comparison. True self-worth comes from within, not from external validation. Start by focusing on your own strengths and accomplishments, no matter how small they may seem. Celebrate your wins, whether they're personal, professional, or just the little victories that get you through the day. Keeping a gratitude journal can be a helpful practice for reinforcing positive self-reflection. Writing down what you're thankful for each day can shift your focus from what you lack to what you have, fostering a sense of abundance rather than scarcity. Another effective way to combat the damaging effects of comparison is to limit your exposure to social media. It's easy to get caught in the endless scroll, but taking breaks from these platforms can help reduce the impulse to compare. Set boundaries for your social media use. whether it's limiting the time you spend on certain apps or unfollowing accounts that make you feel inadequate. Curate your feed to include content that inspires and uplifts you, rather than content that triggers feelings of jealousy or insecurity. Finally, remind yourself that your journey is unique. Just because someone else is on a different path doesn't mean you're behind. The success stories you see online often don't show the behind-the-scenes effort, struggle, and time that went into achieving them. Your story is just as valuable, and you are exactly where you need to be in your own life. Trust that the journey you're on is yours to navigate, and that comparison only steals the joy of your own progress. The next time you find yourself caught in a comparison scroll, take a deep breath and remember, social media is just a snapshot, not the full picture. Your worth doesn't come from likes or followers, nor does it come from comparing your life to others. It comes from within, from the unique qualities, talents, and experiences that make you who you are. So, shift the focus back to yourself, embrace your own path, and let the successes of others inspire you rather than diminish you. By doing so, you'll start to reclaim your confidence, trust your journey, and live more authentically, free from the chains of comparison. Chapter 7. Turning envy into energy. It's that feeling, sudden, sharp, and often uncomfortable. You see someone achieve something you desire, whether it's career success, personal accomplishments, or even something seemingly small like the way they carry themselves with confidence. And suddenly, you're filled with envy. That sense of longing can sting, especially when it feels like someone else has something that's just out of your reach. But what if, instead of letting this emotion drain you, you could use it as fuel to push yourself toward your own growth? What if envy could be transformed into energy, driving you to become a better version of yourself? Envy is one of the most common, yet misunderstood emotions. It's often viewed negatively, associated with jealousy and resentment. But envy itself isn't inherently bad. In fact, it can be a powerful tool for personal growth if we choose to use it constructively. Understanding envy, reframing it, and channeling it into action can lead to profound self-improvement and a stronger sense of motivation. The first step in transforming envy into a positive force is understanding it. At its core, envy reveals something crucial: unmet desires and goals. When we envy someone, we are subconsciously recognizing something we want for ourselves, whether it's their level of success, their lifestyle, or their personal qualities. The feeling of envy is often a reflection of our own desires and the realization that we may not have fully actualized them yet. This recognition doesn't mean that we are lacking as individuals. It simply shows us where our aspirations lie and where we might still have work to do. When we feel envy, our first instinct might be to focus on the negative side of it, the resentment toward the other person, or frustration at our own perceived shortcomings. But by shifting our perspective, we can begin to see envy as a signal, a reminder that we have potential to achieve what others have achieved, but perhaps need more focus, effort, or learning to get there. Instead of seeing the success of others as something that diminishes us, we can begin to view it as a map, guiding us toward our own goals. This brings us to the power of admiration. When we shift from jealousy to admiration, we change our emotional and psychological response. Rather than viewing the person we envy as someone who has something we lack, we begin to see them as someone from whom we can learn. Admiration is a powerful tool. It allows us to focus on the qualities we respect and admire in others and use them as inspiration. We stop seeing their success as a threat to our own potential and start seeing it as a testament to what is possible. When we admire someone, we are acknowledging their hard work, their strategy, and their resilience, all of which are things we can learn from and apply to our own journey. For example, let's say you feel envious of a colleague who has just received a promotion that you were hoping for. Instead of allowing jealousy to take over, take a step back and admire the qualities that led them to this point. Did they work harder? Were they more persistent in their efforts? Did they build strong relationships with key people in the company? Recognizing these qualities in others can help you develop a blueprint for your own success, one that is grounded in action and self-improvement. By shifting from envy to admiration, you no longer feel powerless or defeated. Instead, you feel empowered by the possibility of achieving similar success. Next, we can learn to channel envy into energy that can drive us toward actionable steps for personal development. When you feel the pang of envy, use it as a cue to reflect on what you truly want and why. Instead of ruminating on why you don't have it, think about how you can work toward achieving it. Envy provides a perfect opportunity to assess your own goals and identify areas where you might need to grow. It can serve as a compass, pointing you toward what truly matters to you. For example, if you feel envious of a friend's ability to maintain a healthy work-life balance, instead of letting resentment build up, ask yourself what steps you can take to improve your own balance. Maybe it's setting clearer boundaries, learning time management techniques, or even seeking advice from your friend. By focusing on what you can do to improve, envy becomes a catalyst for self-improvement, not a burden. The next step in transforming envy into energy is to embrace a growth mindset. This concept, popularized by psychologist Carol Dweck, is a belief that our abilities and intelligence can be developed through dedication and hard work. When we adopt a growth mindset, we stop seeing success as something fixed or limited, and we begin to view it as a process, one that involves effort, learning, and resilience. Envy becomes a signpost on the path to our own growth rather than a roadblock. When we view the success of others through the lens of a growth mindset, we can see it as proof of what is possible, not something that diminishes our own potential. A person's success doesn't take away from your chances of success. Instead, their success can serve as a model of what's achievable if you put in the effort. You stop seeing the world as a zero-sum game, where someone else's gain is your loss, and start viewing it as a place where growth is limitless and everyone has a capacity to succeed. Healthy competition is another powerful tool for turning envy into motivation. Competition doesn't always have to be negative or destructive. When channeled correctly, competition can encourage you to strive for your best without losing sight of your self-worth. Healthy competition is rooted in mutual respect and a belief that everyone has a potential to succeed. Rather than compare yourself to others in a way that leads to self-doubt, use the success of others as a benchmark for your own progress. Compete with yourself, not with others, aiming to outdo your own past achievements rather than trying to surpass someone else's. This mindset shift helps you maintain a healthy sense of self-worth while still using the energy of envy to fuel your growth. Building self-worth in the process of turning envy into energy is essential. When we tie our sense of value to external achievements or to the success of others, we are setting ourselves up for disappointment. True self-worth comes from within, from recognizing our own unique strengths, qualities, and potential. By focusing on your own progress, and not just on what others are doing, you build a sense of pride and confidence that is not dependent on comparison. Ultimately, envy is not an emotion we should suppress or ignore. Instead, we can use it as a tool that, when channeled correctly, can help us become better, stronger, and more focused individuals. By shifting from jealousy to admiration, viewing envy as energy, and embracing a growth mindset, we can turn what is often a negative emotion into a powerful source of motivation. In doing so, we stop letting envy control us and instead use it to propel us forward on our own journey of self-improvement. So the next time you feel that familiar pang of envy, don't push it away. Acknowledge it, learn from it, and use it as fuel to become the best version of yourself. Your potential is limitless, and every bit of energy you harness from envy is a step closer to turning that potential into reality. Chapter 8, Identity Debt. Have you ever found yourself at a crossroads, feeling like you're not sure who you really are or why you do what you're doing? Maybe you felt out of sync with the life you're living, disconnected from your own desires or values. It's as if you're playing a role, but the script you're following isn't one you wrote for yourself. You're not alone. In fact, many people experience what psychologists call identity debt. This is a psychological cost of conforming to external expectations, living a life that doesn't truly align with your inner values and desires. And over time, this debt accumulates, leaving us with a sense of dissatisfaction, confusion, and even resentment toward ourselves. At its core, identity debt is about the mismatch between who we really are and who we present to the world. From an early age, we are bombarded with messages about how we should behave, what we should value, and who we should become. Whether from our families, friends, society, or the media, there are constant pressures that shape how we see ourselves. And while some of these influences may be helpful in terms of guiding our behavior, others can lead us down a path of inauthenticity, where we start living according to others' expectations rather than our own truth. This creates a buildup of identity debt, which is essentially a loss of our true self in exchange for a life that looks good on paper, but doesn't feel right. The consequences of identity debt are profound. When we live inauthentically, we slowly begin to lose touch with who we are. We may follow career paths that don't excite us, enter relationships that don't align with our values, or adopt lifestyles that are inauthentic to our true desires. On the surface, it may seem like we're doing everything right, checking off the societal milestones, getting the job, buying a house, appearing successful. But deep down, we may feel empty, unfulfilled, and disconnected. This is the price of inauthenticity, the emotional and psychological toll it takes on us when we don't live in alignment with our true selves. This sense of emptiness is often compounded by the pressure of societal expectations. Society plays a massive role in shaping our sense of identity. From the moment we're born, we are told what's desirable, what's normal, and what's acceptable. As children, we absorb these messages from our parents, teachers, and peers. As we grow older, societal pressures become more subtle, but just as powerful. They manifest in the form of career expectations, beauty standards, relationship norms, and even lifestyle choices. We are told that success looks a certain way, that happiness is a particular destination, and that our worth is tied to external achievements. Over time, we internalize these messages, believing that if we can just meet these expectations, we will finally feel complete. But here's the catch. These external measures of success don't define who we are at our core. And when we base our identity on them, we risk losing touch with what truly matters to us. We begin to live our lives according to someone else's definition of success rather than our own. And that's where the damage starts. The more we try to live up to society's standards, the further we drift from our authentic selves. This is the essence of identity debt. The ongoing cost of trying to meet external expectations at the expense of our own truth. So, how do we overcome this debt? The first step is to reclaim our authentic self. Reconnecting with who we truly are requires us to become aware of the ways in which we conform to external pressures and to challenge those influences. This is an easy process. It requires deep reflection and sometimes difficult decisions. But it's essential if we want to live a life that feels meaningful and true to our values. We need to ask ourselves hard questions. What do I truly want? What I believe? What brings me joy and fulfillment? These are questions that may have been buried beneath years of societal conditioning, but they are the foundation of reclaiming our authenticity. One powerful tool in this process is self-reflection. Taking time to regularly assess your life and your choices can help you identify areas where you may be living inauthentically. It's about getting clear on your values, your passions, and your purpose. What matters most to you? What are you willing to fight for, regardless of what others think? When you can answer these questions, you can start making choices that align with your true self. Another important step is to build a life based on your own values, not external validation. This means designing a future that reflects who you truly are, not who others want you to be. It involves letting go of the idea that success is defined by someone else's standards and instead creating your own definition of success. This could mean pursuing a career that aligns with your passions, building relationships based on mutual respect and understanding, or simply living a way that feels authentic to you. Whatever it is, it's about making choices that reflect your true values, even if those choices don't conform to societal expectations. One example of this is choosing a career that is personally fulfilling, even if it doesn't come with the prestige or financial rewards that others might expect. A person who values creativity and expression, for instance, might choose to become an artist or a writer, even though society often values more traditional, high-paying careers like doctors or lawyers. While this choice might seem unconventional to others, it's aligned with that person's authentic self, and it brings them a deep sense of fulfillment. Similarly, in relationships, living authentically means being true to who you are and what you need, rather than trying to mold yourself to fit someone else's expectations. This might mean letting go of relationships that no longer serve you or setting boundaries with people who don't respect your true self. It's about choosing people who accept you for who you are, not for who you pretend to be. Ultimately, overcoming identity debt is about creating a life that is congruent with who you are, not who you think you should be. It's about stepping out of the shadows of societal expectations and embracing your own unique path. And this isn't just an intellectual exercise. It's a practice. It's about making conscious decisions every day that bring you closer to your authentic self. In the end, the journey to reclaim your identity is one of self-discovery and self-empowerment. It's about having the courage to live authentically, even when it's uncomfortable or goes against the grain. When you begin to build a life based on your true values and passions, you'll find that the weight of identity debt begins to lift. You'll feel more fulfilled, more confident, and more aligned with your purpose. And as you reclaim your authenticity, you'll discover that the life you've been searching for has been inside you all along. Chapter 9. Snack Wars at 9 p.m. It's 9 p.m. You've had a long day, and you're finally winding down, but there's one thing on your mind: a snack. You've told yourself that you would indulge, that you'd stick to your healthy eating plan. But somehow, here you are, reaching for a bag of chips or grabbing that last piece of chocolate. It's a familiar scenario, isn't it? You might even tell yourself, it's just one night. But deep down, you know this pattern has repeated itself time and time again. The truth is, late-night cravings are a powerful force that many of us struggle to control. But why does it happen? What's behind the irresistible urge to snack at night, even when we're not truly hungry? And most importantly, how can we break this cycle and build healthier habits around food choices? The psychology of late-night cravings often starts with a simple truth. Nighttime is when willpower tends to weaken. Over the course of the day, our self-control has been gradually depleted. The science of willpower tells us that it's like a muscle. It gets fatigued the more we use it. By the end of the day, after making countless decisions, dealing with stress, and navigating daily responsibilities, our willpower is running low. The result? Our ability to resist impulses, like snacking, becomes significantly weaker. This is why we're more likely to make poor food choices when we're tired, stressed, or simply ready to unwind. And it's not just about being physically hungry. It's about giving in to the temptation of something that offers instant pleasure, even if it comes at the cost of our long-term health goals. One of the key drivers behind late-night snacking is emotional eating. When we feel stressed, anxious, or emotionally drained, food becomes a source of comfort. This is especially true at night, when the day's pressures may catch up with us, and we find ourselves alone with our thoughts. Emotional eating is an attempt to soothe ourselves with food, but it doesn't address the root cause of the emotions. Instead, it offers a temporary escape, a quick fix that doesn't lead to lasting satisfaction. Over time, emotional eating becomes a pattern, one that's reinforced by the immediate relief it provides. But as many of us know, the relief is fleeting. Once the snack is finished, the feelings of anxiety, stress, or loneliness don't magically disappear. In fact, they often feel more intense, leaving us in a cycle of temporary comfort followed by regret and dissatisfaction. Understanding the psychological connection between emotions and eating is crucial in breaking the cycle. Emotional eating is deeply linked to how we cope with stress and anxiety. When we are overwhelmed or feeling low, food can become a way to distract ourselves, to momentarily numb the discomfort we're experiencing. In a sense, food becomes a coping mechanism, but it's one that doesn't actually solve the problem. And here's where it gets tricky. Emotional eating isn't about hunger at all. It's about using food as a tool to manage our emotional state, which is why it's often linked to poor food choices, comfort foods that provide quick, easy gratification, but lack the nutritional value our bodies truly need. As we explore why we're more likely to snack at night, it's important to recognize how willpower fluctuates throughout the day. In the morning, we generally have more energy and self-control. After a good night's sleep, we wake up with a full willpower tank, and we can make healthy choices more easily. However, as the day progresses, our decision-making capacity diminishes. By evening, we've expended most of our willpower reserves. This is why the temptation to snack often hits hardest at night. Our ability to resist is at its lowest point, and we're looking for a quick boost of energy or comfort which food can provide. But there's hope. Understanding these psychological forces is the first step in breaking the cycle of late-night cravings. We can start by practicing mindfulness around food choices. Instead of mindlessly reaching for a snack, pause for a moment. Check in with yourself. Am I truly hungry, or am I just trying to escape an emotion or feeling? Sometimes, Simply acknowledging the underlying emotion, stress, boredom, or even habit can help us make more intentional choices. Taking a moment to breathe, step away from the kitchen, or distract ourselves with an activity can help break the impulsive need to snack. The goal is to be aware of the emotional triggers behind late-night cravings and to choose healthier coping mechanisms, like reading a book, doing a short relaxation exercise, or engaging in a hobby. Another important step in overcoming late-night cravings is to build healthier routines around food. The key is consistency. If you're prone to snacking at night, creating a routine that supports healthier habits throughout the day can make a big difference. For example, eating balanced meals during the day, staying hydrated, and getting enough nutrients can help reduce the temptation to snack at night. When our bodies are well-nourished and not deprived of essential nutrients, we're less likely to crave unhealthy foods later in the evening. Additionally, setting a regular bedtime and establishing a calming pre-sleep routine can help reduce the mental stress that often triggers emotional eating. When we feel more at ease and in control, we're less likely to turn to food as a means of escape. Another effective strategy is to keep healthy snacks readily available. If you're someone who enjoys a nighttime snack, make sure it's something that aligns with your health goals. Swap out chips or candy for fresh fruit, nuts, or yogurt. These options provide the satisfaction of eating something, but with added nutritional benefits. Having healthy snacks on hand makes it easier to make better choices when cravings strike, without feeling like you're depriving yourself of comfort. The most important aspect of breaking the snack wars at 9 p.m. is building sustainable habits that support overall health and well-being. This is not about being perfect, but about making small, consistent changes that lead to better long-term outcomes. It's about recognizing that nighttime cravings are not just about hunger, but about the complex interplay between willpower, emotions, and habits. By taking control of these factors, you can transform the way you approach food, not just at night, but throughout the day. Ultimately, the key to winning the snack wars lies in understanding the deeper reasons behind our cravings and learning how to make more mindful, intentional choices. By addressing the emotional triggers, supporting our willpower, and building healthier routines, we can break the cycle of late-night temptation and create lasting change in our relationship with food. When we take the time to align our actions with our long-term health goals, we gain the freedom to enjoy life without the weight of regret hanging over our heads each morning. Chapter 10, the 24-hour loop reset. It's 8 a.m., and the day begins like most others. Your alarm goes off, and as you stretch to turn it off, a wave of anxiety floods your mind. You start thinking about the tasks ahead, the emails waiting, the meetings to attend, the deadlines to meet. You've barely had a chance to fully wake up, and already your mind is racing. Before you even get out of bed, you've already started to mentally exhaust yourself. This is a cycle we often find ourselves trapped in, a loop of stress, overwhelm, and mental clutter that makes every day feel like a repeat of the last. But what if I told you that every single day offers you a chance to reset the cycle? That in just 24 hours, you can transform your mental and physical state and set yourself up for success? What if you could start every day with a fresh mindset, a clear focus, and a sense of control? Welcome to the power of the 24-hour loop reset. The idea of resetting your mindset every 24 hours is grounded in the belief that routines are essential to our mental health and productivity. When we talk about routines, we're not just referring to the actions we take throughout the day. We're talking about the consistent, deliberate habits that ground us and provide structure in a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable. A routine isn't about rigidly controlling every moment of your day. It's about creating a framework that supports your well-being, reduces mental clutter, and fosters consistency. It's about having a system that allows you to reset, recharge, and refocus when life gets overwhelming. One of the primary benefits of routines is their ability to ground us. Think about it. When you wake up and immediately have a plan in place, it reduces the mental energy spent deciding what to do next. This is especially crucial in the morning when your mind is still waking up and your willpower is at its highest. Without a plan, we tend to get swept up by distractions, whether it's checking emails, scrolling through social media, or responding to messages. These distractions add to the mental clutter, and before you know it, hours have passed, and you haven't accomplished anything meaningful. A well-structured morning routine helps cut through that clutter, providing you with a clear path forward and setting a positive tone for the day. But routines aren't just about reducing mental clutter. They also serve as a powerful tool for breaking negative psychological cycles. Many of us get stuck in patterns of anxiety, stress, or self-doubt that can feel like an endless loop. We worry about the past, fear the future, and get caught in cycles of overthinking. This can quickly spiral into a state of mental exhaustion and frustration, making it hard to focus, make decisions, or take action. However, by implementing intentional routines, we can break these cycles. When we create structure, we disrupt the mental chaos and create space for focus, clarity, and productivity. This reset allows us to start fresh each day, moving away from negativity and toward a more positive, actionable mindset. Let's take a moment to talk about the role of habits in shaping long-term behavior. Every action we take, no matter how small, reinforces a pattern in our brain. The more we repeat an action, the more it becomes ingrained in our daily lives. This is why habits are so powerful. They are the building blocks of our routines, and when we intentionally cultivate positive habits, we set ourselves up for success in the long run. For example, think about the simple habit of drinking water first thing in the morning. It's a small action, but over time, it helps hydrate your body, kickstart your metabolism, and set the tone for a healthy day. It might seem trivial, but when you combine small, positive habits, they have a cumulative effect that can transform your mental and physical health. Building positive habits takes time, but the key is consistency. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. In fact, starting small is often the best way to ensure long-term success. If you want to develop a habit of exercising every morning, begin by committing to just 5 minutes a day. This small, manageable goal helps build momentum, and over time, 5 minutes turns into 10, then 20, and before you know it, you've made exercise a regular part of your routine. The power of consistency lies in its ability to compound. Just as negative habits can snowball and lead to unhealthy patterns, positive habits can snowball and lead to personal transformation. It's the small, consistent actions that ultimately create lasting change. Of course, building a productive routine is important, but so is making space for rest and recovery. In our fast-paced world, we often prioritize doing over being. We fill our days with tasks and responsibilities, pushing ourselves to the limit, believing that rest is a luxury we don't have time for. But neglecting rest is a recipe for burnout, stress, and poor mental health. This is why recovery must be a non-negotiable part of our routines. Rest isn't just about sleep. It's about taking breaks throughout the day, managing your energy levels, and giving your mind the space it needs to recharge. Recovery helps us maintain balance, stay focused, and prevent the mental and physical exhaustion that leads to poor decision-making and lack of motivation. By prioritizing rest, we reset our energy levels and prepare ourselves to tackle the challenges of the day with a clear mind and a renewed sense of purpose. Now, let's talk about how we can reset our mindset and energy for success every 24 hours. The beauty of the 24-hour loop reset is that you don't have to wait for next week, month, or year to change your habits. Every single day offers a new opportunity to reset. This is why the power of routines is so effective. By setting aside time for intentional action each day, you can cultivate a sense of control and purpose, regardless of what's happening in the world around you. The key is to start your day with intention and to end your day with reflection. In the morning, set clear goals, visualize your success, and commit to the habits that will help you move forward. In the evening, take time to reflect on your accomplishments, acknowledge any challenges, and reset for the next day. One example of this might be a simple evening routine. Take 10 minutes to unwind, meditate, or journal your thoughts. This time allows you to clear your mind, process your emotions, and release any lingering stress. By ending the day with a sense of calm and clarity, you set yourself up for a positive, energized start the following morning. The 24-hour loop reset is not about perfection. It's about intentional action. It's about committing to small, consistent steps that support your mental and physical well-being. By creating routines that prioritize both productivity and rest, you begin to break free from the cycle of stress and overwhelm. Every day is a new opportunity to reset, reframe your mindset, and design a life that supports your long-term health and happiness. As you embrace the power of daily routines, you'll find that the cycle of anxiety and negativity becomes easier to break, and your path to success becomes clearer and more achievable one day at a time. Conclusion: harnessing the mind's power. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast landscape, one where you hold a key to unlocking everything you want in life. The power to change your mindset, to reshape your behavior, to overcome your limitations, and to live in a way that aligns with your true self is within your grasp. This journey through the hidden forces of human psychology by Audiobook Center has been all about understanding how your mind operates and how, with the right awareness, you can use its power to your advantage. But now, the real question is, what are you going to do with that knowledge? In the chapters that have preceded this conclusion, we've explored some of the most significant psychological forces that shape our daily behaviors and experiences. We've looked at the phantom phone check, the 5-minute lie, inbox roulette, and other forces that hijack our minds, often without us realizing it. Through understanding these patterns, such as why we compulsively check our phones or why we feel the need to compare ourselves to others, we've peeled back the layers of human behavior to reveal the psychology that drives us. What we've discovered is that the mind, while incredibly powerful, can also be easily manipulated by unconscious habits, external stimuli, and societal pressures. But here's the good news. With the right strategies and understanding, we can regain control and harness that power for personal growth and transformation. At the heart of everything we've learned is one undeniable truth. The mind, with all its complexities, can be mastered. It's not about eliminating distractions or challenges entirely, because that's simply not possible in the fast-paced, digitally driven world we live in. It's about cultivating self-awareness and learning to navigate those challenges with intention and mindfulness. The power to change, to grow, and to build healthier habits rests within you. And it starts with being aware of the psychological forces that influence your thoughts and actions. One of the most powerful lessons we've explored is the importance of self-awareness. Understanding how your mind works, the triggers that lead to unhealthy behaviors, the patterns of thought that hold you back, and the emotional drivers behind your decisions, is a first step toward making lasting change. When you can observe your behaviors without judgment, when you can step back and say, I see what's happening here, you gain the ability to change course. It's in that moment of awareness that you can make empowered decisions, break free from negative cycles, and set yourself on a path to success. Awareness is a foundation of change, and without it, we're simply operating on autopilot, letting unconscious forces dictate our actions. Throughout this audiobook, we've seen how deeply our psychological patterns shape our lives. From the way we react to stress and anxiety, to the ways we self-sabotage through procrastination or comparison, the forces we've discussed are all part of the human experience. But here's the important thing to remember. While these forces are powerful, they are not unbeatable. Understanding them is the key to breaking free. Take the time to reflect on the patterns in your own life, whether it's the way you fall into the trap of late-night cravings, the cycle of overthinking, or the constant need to seek validation online. These are not flaws. They are human tendencies that can be understood, controlled, and redirected. Empowerment comes when you realize that you are not at the mercy of your mind's automatic responses. You have the ability to choose how you react, how you behave, and how you respond to life's challenges. The power of your mind to shape your life is immense, but it requires you to actively engage with it. When you learn to direct your focus, change your thinking patterns, and develop healthier habits, you unlock a new level of personal control and resilience. This is not a quick fix or an overnight transformation. It's a lifelong journey. But by taking small, consistent actions each day, you start to shift your mindset, and in doing so, you shift your entire life. As we bring this audiobook to a close, I want to leave you with a call to action. What are you going to do with the insights you've gained? It's easy to listen to ideas and feel inspired in the moment, but true change comes from taking actionable steps. Start by reflecting on the psychological patterns that are currently influencing your life. Identify the areas where you feel stuck or frustrated. Are you falling into the trap of procrastination, or is comparison to others stealing your joy? Are you struggling with emotional eating or anxiety-driven decisions? Once you've identified these patterns, make a plan for how you'll change them. Implement the strategies we've discussed. Whether it's setting healthier boundaries around technology, practicing mindfulness to break the cycle of overthinking, or setting daily routines that support your well-being. The key is to start small, stay consistent, and track your progress. Remember, personal growth isn't about perfection. It's about progress. Every day offers you the opportunity to reset. As you move forward, remind yourself that you are in control of your thoughts and actions. You have the power to decide how you engage with your environment, how you respond to external pressures, and how you cultivate your mindset. Your mind is not your enemy. It's your greatest ally. When you learn to work with it, you'll be amazed at what you can achieve. Finally, I want to leave you with a final thought. In a world that's constantly distracting us, the greatest power you can possess is the ability to live consciously and mindfully. In a world of noise and chaos, you have the ability to choose stillness. You have the ability to be present, to make decisions based on your values, and to navigate life's challenges with clarity. As you step into this new chapter of your life, remember that you don't have to be at the mercy of your thoughts or the distractions around you. You are the creator of your own reality, and the more consciously you live, the more powerful your mind becomes. So, take the lessons you've learned here, implement them, and begin the journey of harnessing your mind's power. The world is full of distractions, but it's also full of opportunities to grow, evolve, and live a life that truly reflects who you are. The key is in your hands. Now it's time to use it.